There's a certain kind of person you can sit across from for an entire hour and still walk away knowing almost nothing about what they were actually thinking. They nodded, they answered your questions, they were perfectly polite, and yet the second they left, you realized the conversation went one direction. You gave them everything. They gave you a locked door with a friendly face painted on it. Most people call that being guarded. Some call it being distant. A few quietly call it cold. Psychology calls it something completely different and far more interesting. Because the INTP isn't hiding from you. What you're about to understand is that their unreadability isn't a wall they built to keep you out. It's a side effect of how their mind is actually wired. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why the INTP is so impossible to read and why the rare few who learn to read them anyway end up trusting them more than almost anyone else in their life. The INTP. Introverted, intuitive, thinking, perceiving. They make up somewhere between 2 and 5% of the population, which means most people will only ever meet a handful of true INTPs in their entire life. And yet you've almost certainly met one. The friend who goes silent in the middle of a group and seems 1,000 miles away, then drops one sentence that quietly reframes the entire conversation. The coworker who never offers an opinion until they've thought it all the way through and then turns out to be right. The partner who loves you deeply but freezes up trying to say it out loud in the exact moment you most need to hear it. Carl Jung, the psychiatrist who first mapped these mental patterns almost a century ago, described a type governed by what he called introverted thinking. A mind that turns inward to build a private, precise model of how everything works and only reluctantly, carefully, brings any piece of that model to the surface. That inward turn is the key to everything you're about to hear. We're going to walk through 7 reasons the INTP is so impossible to read. Each one goes a little deeper than the last. Let's start with the one almost everyone gets wrong. Number 1. Their face is not a screen for what they're feeling. When something big is happening inside an INTP, their expression often doesn't move at all. No widened eyes, no obvious reaction, just the same steady, neutral face. Psychologist Paul Ekman spent decades proving that most people leak their emotions through tiny, involuntary facial movements, micro-expressions that flash across the face before we can stop them. But those leaks are learned and reinforced by a lifetime of emotional performance. The INTP never built that habit. Their processing happens in a language that has no facial expression at all, pure abstract thought running underneath a surface that simply forgot to broadcast. So when you look at an INTP and see nothing, you're making a natural mistake. You're reading a blank screen and assuming the machine is off. It isn't off. It's running harder than almost anyone in the room. But a still face is just the surface. The real reason they're hard to read is where their attention actually is, and that's where it gets fascinating. Number 2. When they go quiet, they've left the room without leaving the room. Ask an INTP a simple question and watch what happens. A pause. A faraway look. And in that pause, they are gone following a thought down 5 branching hallways you can't see. This is the INTP's second mental gift at work, what personality psychologists call extroverted intuition, a mind that instantly explodes any single idea into a web of possibilities, connections, and what-ifs. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, the researcher who named the state of flow, found that deep thinkers routinely lose all awareness of the outside world when they're absorbed in a problem. For the INTP, that absorption isn't rare. It's their resting state. So the distance you feel isn't the distance of someone who doesn't care about you. It's the distance of someone who is standing 3 rooms deep inside their own mind and hasn't yet found the sentence that would let you in. Now here's where it gets more complicated, because this next part is something most people, and even most INTPs, don't fully understand about themselves. Number 3, they analyze their feelings instead of showing them. An INTP can be having a genuine emotional experience and, at the very same moment, be studying it, watching it from the outside, asking, what is this? Where did it come from? Does it make sense? Introverted thinking runs almost everything through a filter of logic first, including emotion. Researchers who study what's called expressive suppression, led by psychologist James Gross, have shown that some people habitually route their feelings through analysis before any of it reaches the surface. The feeling is fully there. But by the time it's been examined, categorized, and weighed, the outward moment to express it has usually passed. So if you've ever watched an INTP receive emotional news and just go still and thoughtful, understand what you saw, not the absence of feeling. Feeling being taken apart with great care, in private. And this next one, the people closest to an INTP get it wrong more than any other. Number 4, their silence is not indifference. It's often the opposite. Here is the cruelest misread of all. When an INTP cares about you the most, they frequently say the least. Big emotions make them retreat, not reach out, and to the person waiting on the other side, retreat looks exactly like not caring. In the framework Jung built, warm outward emotional expression, the ability to name feelings out loud and fill a room with them, is the INTP's weakest function, not their weakest feeling. Think of it like writing with your non-dominant hand. The love is fluent, the pen is not. What comes out is slow, clumsy, and nothing like the strength of what's actually there. So the partner who says nothing when you're crying may be feeling more than they have ever been able to hold. They aren't cold. They're standing at the edge of an emotion with a vocabulary that was never built to carry it. If you're the kind of person who actually thinks about the people in your life this carefully, not just what they do, but what's happening underneath it, and you've made it this far, that tells me something about you. It would genuinely mean a lot if you hit subscribe. We put out videos like this every week, real psychology, explained in a way that finally makes sense. Now to the part almost no one sees. Number 5. Being unreadable has a quiet cost, and they pay it alone. There is a specific loneliness that comes from having an enormous inner world that no one ever visits. The INTP lives most of their life in a place they can't easily show anyone. And over time, the gap between how rich they are on the inside and how flat they appear on the outside becomes its own kind of ache. Susan Cain's work on introversion revealed a world quietly built for the loud one that mistakes quiet for empty and stillness for absence. The INTP absorbs that message early and often. They watch people decide who they are based on a surface that tells almost none of the truth, and they slowly stop expecting to be understood at all. You can see the cost in small moments. The idea they never share because explaining it feels like too much translation. The compliment they meant sincerely that came out flat and got brushed aside. The friend who calls them low energy when on the inside they have never once been bored a single day of their life. Each of these is tiny. Together, over years, they teach the INTP a lesson that is hard to unlearn. It is safer to expect nothing than to be misread again. So the next time an INTP seems unbothered by being overlooked, look closer. Underneath the calm is someone who gave up a long time ago on the hope that anyone would guess what was really in there. But this is the root underneath all of it. Number 6. The inner world became home because it was the safest place they had. INTPs are not born behind glass. Somewhere early, the outer world taught them that the inside was safer than the outside, that a raw reaction got corrected or misunderstood or used against them, while a thought kept private stayed clean and fully theirs. Developmental psychology is clear that children build their strongest defenses around whatever once got hurt. For the young INTP, precise, logical, private thinking became both a refuge and a source of pride, a fortress with a library inside it. The walls didn't go up to keep the world out. They went up around something worth protecting. So the unreadable adult in front of you is in part a child who learned that the surface was dangerous and the depths were home. What looks like distance is the shape of an old, quiet act of self-protection. Which brings us to the last one, and honestly the most important. Number 7. When they finally let you in, it is the most honest thing you will ever receive. The INTP does not open up easily, evenly, or for everyone. But when they decide you are safe, something remarkable happens. The door doesn't crack. It swings wide, and behind it is a mind that has been building, refining, and quietly loving you in its own language the entire time. Because the same introverted thinking that makes them impossible to read also makes them incapable of faking it. They can't perform warmth, they don't feel, and they won't manufacture words just to fill a silence. So when an INTP finally tells you what they think of you, you can trust it completely. It has been examined from every angle and survived. There is no version underneath it. That is the paradox of the INTP. The very thing that makes them hard to know is the same thing that makes them, once known, impossible to doubt. So, the next time you meet someone with a still face and a quiet mouth and a gaze that seems to be somewhere far away, don't assume there's nothing there. You may be looking at one of the richest inner worlds you will ever have the chance to see. Someone who feels in a language that doesn't reach the face. Someone who thinks in hallways you'll never fully walk. Someone who isn't cold and isn't hiding, but simply lives further inside than most people are ever willing to go. They aren't impossible to read because there's nothing to find. They're impossible to read because there is so much and they've been waiting quietly for someone patient enough to look. If you want to go deeper on the mind behind all of this, I put together a full breakdown of the INTP personality that I think will hit just as hard. It's right here whenever you're ready.